Hello, friend. How are you? How's your world?
Going well, going well.
My
Glad
name
to be
is
here.
my name is Derek. For those that don't know, this is Mike Lunny. For those that don't know, I'm sure everybody does. And it's time for another exciting adventure of Ask Mike. Actually, this is going to be a continuation. We started last week talking about, I don't. I was going to say survival. I don't want to make it that scary, but how do we get through these last 6 weeks or
Yes.
so of school? What are some smart things that we can do as teachers? And that does the best thing for us, the best thing for our programs, the best thing for our students. And so we just want to kind of jump right back in. I think that was great stuff last week, but I know that listen, that's 3 pages, the list, and we're going to include that link again. Rick in the chair, make sure you get that link put back up, how they can download this list, this accumulation of vast knowledge acquired by, by Mike over, I won't say however many years it was teaching. I don't know how many. It was
Yeah.
30 what?
30, 40, 50, 60, whatever.
Some of these may be novel to Mike. Some of these he's accumulated, and we encourage that always. If you see something that works, take it, do it, make it part of your repertoire. So anyway, there's 3 pages of that, and I know we didn't cover all the good things last week. Sometimes when I go to different meetings, conferences, listen to people trying to learn, they tell me if I can grab one thing that makes my life better, it's successful. So I want to make sure we kind of cover some more of that today, if you're up for it, and see
Yeah,
if we can't find that one thing that helps some of our friends out there in the education world.
awesome. And I'm not going to go bullet point by bullet point because that would be almost be insulting to the people listening to read to
I
them and then
agree.
tell
I
them.
agree.
But I tell you what, I'm going to hit some high points. But we have that link I think Rick puts on there where they can send us emails to me, and I'd be more than happy to answer any
Yeah,
questions if
we
you
do
see
have
something
an
on that checklist.
Ask Mike at intomusic.com. We got us an email address. I'm
Yeah.
sure he'll put it up. So,
And I'd be more than happy to answer those on
and we
things that I
encourage
don't
that.
address today. Yeah, I would love it. I would love it.
So,
Okay. Some things to kind of think about. One is, I think a really important one is to have a very formal almost staff meeting. If
okay.
you're lucky enough to have staff. I know a lot of my friends out there are one director situations. They might consider their staff their band parent president and a couple of band parents that work hard with them. But if you have a staff of even 2 or 3 people, have a meeting at the very end of the year, close to the end, discuss what went well and what did not go well, and be really open to constructive criticism and be open to destructive criticism.
So
You know,
let's jump on that for just a second.
yeah.
I want you to elaborate on that a little bit. I know you and I have had this conversation before, but I want to make sure we throw it out there again. And I think we've talked about it in our different recordings we've done before. But you cannot be afraid that somebody's going to see something wrong in what you do. And maybe that's not a right way to put it. We cannot be so hesitant that we don't want people to criticize and constructively.
Right.
You got to be open to it. That's how we grow. That's how we get better.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. I try to think of it as when I was a undergrad student on trumpet, how my private lesson teacher approached things. There were things I could critique on his part, but it better be very polite, you know. And
Sure.
but there's things he could tell me to do that didn't have to be necessarily as polite, but there's got to be that communication. It can't be that I'm the head band director, so I know all, and everyone shall
Right.
follow me now.
Right. Right.
If you approach it that way, you're just going to turn over staff every year. They're gonna leave you, go
And I would
somewhere.
throw it this way as well.
Are they?
There's some smart people in the world besides me.
Oh yeah, I went on the basis I tried to surround myself all the time with people much smarter and better musicians than I, because it made my job easier.
I think I've heard the saying, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room.
That's right. Find a better room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Find a different room. Okay. So that's one to go through and give the staff time to really fully speak their mind. Try your hardest not to interrupt them. I would have to kind of sit there and just kind of bite my tongue and let them go through the process, and then we'd talk about it, and we'd always figure it out. But I think it makes everyone feel like they're actually a part of the team instead of me being the one telling everybody what to do, if
Right.
that makes sense. Okay. Some things to do, logistical things to kind of front load. Kind of make sure you set your clinicians and stuff for the fall and spring if possible. because clinicians, they book up pretty quick. So if you have availability of solid dates that will work, and even if they're not totally solid, just voice that to your clinician. Say,
Okay.
I think this is going to work, but if it doesn't, we can be flexible as well.
Now I'm going to ask because I'm going to ask. You said for the following spring, we're looking a year ahead right now.
I've got some that are booked in the August of 2025 right now
Oh, wow.
for
Okay.
summer band stuff, and not a lot, but and it's just a fact of, if you want the clinician you want, it's better to jump out there instead of waiting like 2 weeks prior and go, hey, I need to find somebody, kind of
Well,
thing.
I can see. I got that right. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's the spring, but the hard part is obviously it's hard to know dates, isn't it?
Well,
With
and I
testing
also
and
think this though, if you got somebody in your mind that's successful, that is, for lack of a better term, in demand, you really kind of get on that now, or it's going to fill up. These
yeah,
schedules fill up fast, right? Well,
yeah. And most
faster
guys
than you think.
that make a sort of side hustle clinicking like I do, they have the person who's scheduled and then two or three underneath that in case dates change. And so we all work together and kind of try to make it work out to where we can get to the bands that want us to get to them. And I don't mean to make it sound like it's not like an orthodontist appointment. You know what I
No,
mean?
I got it.
Yeah,
I got it.
yeah. Just kind of front load on that a little bit.
But as
Other
with all
thing,
things, communication, if you don't communicate, you didn't communicate.
exactly, exactly. Some really other logistical things that we don't think about sometimes. Check the uniforms.
Okay.
Order more, repair if needed, because sometimes those uniform companies, they take a long time to do fill-ins. And there was one year I had to order I guess it was like a 62 size jacket, and then I also had to order a 28 size jacket, which that
Got the
jacket wouldn't even
spectrum
fit
going
around my
there.
leg. Yeah, and that Fred J. Miller was just, they thought it was hilarious. I said,
Yeah.
hey man, these kids are coming up, they're freshmen. I've got to get them a uniform, and they helped me out. But if you wait till August, you're not going to get it till Christmas.
Yeah, supply chain affected uniform companies just like it did everybody else.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it was that way even prior because in their situation, they make entire batches of uniforms. So they have to retool the entire assembly just to
Right.
make my 6 replacement uniforms. It's not very cost effective. It's more of a public service on their part. Okay.
Hey, can I ask you this? Did you wash your uniforms every year? Is that something we should think of?
Well, ours were washable uniforms, but we dry cleaned them. And the school, I was fortunate enough that the school paid for the dry cleaning. And so we would send every uniform in, every single one of them in the summer to get them dry cleaned and sorted and get them put back where
So
they need
this
to go.
is the time to think about that.
Oh yeah, we got them out of the band hall because we wore concert black for concert contest. We would actually do it sometime in March.
Okay.
Get our uniforms all done, and that way it's all ready and no one's panicky. Plus the band, they really appreciate if everything's up in the uniform room. It's all clean, it's all sorted and neat, and it gives them kind of a fresh start when all those
And to
kids start to
hark back to
arrive.
our last conversation, you probably have some kids that would think that's a great responsibility to have, to be in charge of that with
Oh
the
yeah,
help of mothers or other parents, or, you know.
yeah. But you're right. But as the uniforms came back from the cleaners, they went up there, and those 4 kids would go up there and they would just sort through everything, update the database, do all that kind of grunt work, I guess.
Yeah, but it's
And then
not all about me doing everything. That's kind of where I was going with
oh
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. In fact, I hate to admit it, it's kind of almost embarrassing, but I had a kid one time ask me something about the uniform, how to put it on. I had no idea how the inner part of the uniform.
That was cool.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, I don't know. Go ask so and so. Said
Go
I have
ask
no
the people
idea how
in
those.
charge.
I don't know how those uniforms work. It was like the inside of the jacket, and it was like had to zip it a certain way, and I had no earthly idea.
So, side note, real quick, just because I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
My history, I went to Midland Lee, Robert E. Lee High School in Midland, Texas. That's where I started high school in a long time ago. And our uniforms were actually a white tuxedo with an overlay with those arm things.
Yep.
With buttons over here. But as a sophomore going into Lee High School, I was just like, which is legacy now. But I was just like, this is a puzzle. I have no idea how this works. And at the time, my band director, it was his first year. He wasn't really the same exact story you just told. I don't know. You'll need to go ask your section leader.
Yeah. Or other times I'd get on the band trailer to help, and the kids would respectfully go, "Mr. Lenny, could you go do something band directorish and leave us alone
Really?
because you're kind of in the way?" Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Let me go
That's
do
great.
something band director like. Other things to do. Make sure to check out your marching grid, whether it's on asphalt, whether it's a grass field. Make sure you get all that kind of addressed. Who's gonna mow if you're gonna mow? Who's
Okay.
gonna repaint? Who's gonna put dots? Schedule a time if you got kids helping you to do dots. Get all that kind of front loaded. That way we can tell what we're doing
Okay.
on there. Ordering gear and supplies, because sometimes they wait too long. I mean, get with the music store for a cool drum heads, whatever you need to do, travel uniform, shirts, all that kind of stuff.
Do you mind if I jump in on this real quick?
No, go for it. Go for it.
If you're looking at reeds, if you're drum heads, especially, man,
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now a lot of those are made to order, so
Yeah.
they don't make them till we order them. That's what that means.
That's right.
Sticks. If you're going to switch sticks, if you're going to switch mallets, and I know there's new and cool, and somebody recommends, so we want to try that. That's all awesome. The music, I'm going to tell you, Intune at least is excited to be a part of that journey with you. But again, we had this conversation a little bit last week. You got to be realistic. That stuff doesn't just show up tomorrow.
Right.
In most cases, there's a lot of, and this is not negativity towards our percussion world, but it's not fast right now.
Right.
There are certain companies that we're 6 weeks sometimes to get stuff, especially if you're going to order. I know some guys have, well, I've got 5 snare kids, so I'm going to get 20 pairs of sticks to make sure we don't run out. That's kind of a bulk order. We need that stuff now as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So we can make sure we have what you need next year. So
Yeah.
that's my quick plug from the music side of it, the store side of it, and I'll get it back out of the way.
Yeah. Oh no, you're great. You're great. Make sure all your summer band camps, whether it's percussion, guard, drum major, full band, get all that stuff advertised to the students, to the administration, to the parents in about 5 different ways.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is this the time to go talk to coaches?
Yeah,
Listen,
that's
we're
one coming
sharing
up.
some kids. Okay.
Yeah.
I jumped the
Yeah.
gun. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. But just make sure all that's advertised so we know exactly what's happening. And going on to piggybacking on what you said about coaches, I always would schedule a meeting with my head football coach.
Okay.
And part of that was, I guess, the sharing of kids. But generally, I took the approach that I had a big enough program, I guess, even in smaller towns when I was in Electra, that the kids pretty much did the sport. And then we figured out how to adjust our rehearsals around it. There was never, I'm not saying this in a negative way, they will go to half the football practice and then they'll go to half the band practice. That works for some band directors. So I'm not saying don't do that. It never worked for me. It made the kids, because the coaches would sometimes agree to that when I was younger, but then the kids got punished by the other kids.
Right.
They'd say, "Why are you leaving?"
Right.
So that they were between a rock and a hard place. But I would always ask the coach, said, "What things can we do in the stands? What songs would you like us to play? When do you not want us to play?
What
When do
hypes
you
your
want us
team?
to start
Yeah.
playing?"
Yeah.
I think it goes a long ways. And I had such a good rapport with most of my athletic directors over the course of time. In fact, at Wiley, we had the football team would show up in mass and watch the marching contest. And the coach, he was an old drummer, at Clements High School, I believe,
So
in
almost
San
a musician.
Antonio. Almost a musician, yeah. He was actually could help me out a lot, but I think it does a lot for PR. Find out if they like Dr. Pepper
Look at
or
you.
what Snickers bar. Bring him
But
something and
I'd
just
also-
talk to him.
I'd flip that, Mike, too. Don't be scared of them.
Right.
We're all part of the
Exactly.
same team, the same school, the same program. We're trying to promote success for everyone.
Yeah.
Don't have a preconceived notion of how that conversation is going to go. You're there to help. Just like you just said,
Yes.
What would you like? What helps your program? Well, here's some things that will help my program. How do we find the middle and get along?
Yeah. And the last thing about that is it's really cool to have a meeting in because those meetings are going to happen somewhere else down the line. So it's always kind of nice to start the summer with just having a meeting with the coach in his office and bring him a Dr. Pepper and a Snickers bar and just say, "Hey, let's hang out and kind of talk about things a while," instead of, "Hey, I've got this kid that needs to be at area marching." you
Yeah,
know, or he comes in and says, "Hey, we've got this scrimmage going on. You're not gonna be able to rehearse at that time." You know,
it's
the
always
stadium's gonna
easier
be
to
used.
go to their comfort zone with a gift and
Yeah,
with a pleasant disposition.
yeah,
Just helps.
because it just builds a relationship. I think
Exactly.
that's an important thing. Other things, kind of check your if you're lucky enough to have a band tower to look for. I always called it the deer blind, you know, to watch the band march. You know, check that band tower for whether there's been any kind of rust. Something as simple as wasp. Make sure
That's
it's secured. You know,
that sounds
yeah, go
simple, but
ahead.
that's important.
Yeah, because you won't know there's wasp until you get to the very top. And it's really hard to come back down quickly when you're a svelte athlete like Mike Lunny to come down quickly unless you just fall, you know. So things to think about, you know, and you know, that band tower is a place where you do a lot of your work from. So just make sure all that is set up and correct. Also, I would say just I guess a legal kind of thing. Just make sure it's secured really well where other like kids can't just come up and climb up in it. You know, I go to so many schools, some of them it's really secured. Others, I wonder how in the world a kid's not gone up there during the summer and jumped off and broke a leg or something because there's no security on the ladder. There's nothing locked down. So I would say make sure, figure out a way with your ag department to get the tower locked down to where it's be really difficult to climb up in it.
Sure.
Okay.
And I assume you used some amplification while you're up there. So is this a good time to check your batteries and make sure all that works?
Yes, because sometimes in a lot of towers, they have the wiring built into the tower where you go up and you kind of plug in up there. If you have that kind of situation, make sure that's all working. You know, so it's not the first day of summer and all the kids are excited and can I'll spend 20 minutes working on technology while the band's sitting there. You know, so
Weatherproof is a cool word, but it's not 100%.
yeah, it's not 100%. So try to get all that set up to where there's no accidents. Something as simple as just make sure your things have to be charged. Just make sure they're plugged in over the summer. You know, and then later on, you know, about the week before summer band starts, you're up at the band hall, double check them all
Right. Now, I
because you
will
don't
tell
know
you
what's
this too. It used to be if you left batteries charged in all the time, then it developed a memory or it affected the life of that battery. Most batteries now aren't that way. You can leave them charged up
yeah,
and
and
it's not going
you're
to affect
right.
it.
The first of my career, I destroyed so much equipment doing that. You know, because it's like the battery be useless. But you're right. The last 10 years, I guess, we just left them plugged in. We'd bring them from rehearsal. They were plugged in all
Right.
summer, plugged in. Okay, to make sure all that works. And also any kind of paint sticks or chalks or flags or markers, anything you use to mark drill with on the field, double check you've got enough for everybody
Right.
because things disappear. Kids put that stuff in their pocket. They're not nefarious. They're not trying to steal all your little drill flags, but they end up going to class with them and they mess with them and they throw them away or whatever. You know, so just make sure all that's there because when you need it, you need it.
And I will tell you this again from our side of that conversation. There's really not that many companies that most people want to get drill markers from or that kind of. Everybody's kind of got a standard that they like.
Right.
If you don't get on that now, you're going to be out of a color that you wanted.
Yes,
And so
that's
plan
exactly
on that.
right.
And I'm gonna ask you this real quick. I keep saying throw. I'm trying not to be so repetitive, but the new technology, the guys that are doing drill and it's going straight to the student's phone.
Right.
Is that something we need to figure out now? Is that, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it. I'm kind of old school. That scares me that it's not going to work somewhere at some point, but that's just my,
Well, when I was first handed a tablet at a clinic and I had the UDB app, Ultimate Drill Book app, I was scared because I was like, where's my clipboard with my rubber bands and my
right.
marker pens and whatever? Within 30 minutes, I'm a believer. I was evangelized. And
Okay.
every clinic I go to, every school I go to now, if they can swing it, I think it's the way to go because the kids have all their stuff with them. You don't copy drill charts. Um, the modern technology, it was amazing to me how quickly kids could learn drill with the UDB app compared to let's set this drill and let's do the next
Right.
set.
And it's so
So
much more what they've grown up with. It's their world.
yeah,
But from a planning standpoint, is that something we need to figure out now? If we're going to switch to that, is that pretty easy to do? In other words, am I going to have to
if
get that
someone's gonna
serviced? And
if someone's gonna switch to that, which I think was a great idea, I would maybe get with my leadership team the student leaders during the last portion of this particular year and kind of get the subscription set up for them and write some fake drill and go
Sure.
through the process with it, even just in the band hall.
Well, your
Just
leadership
showing them how it
council,
works.
yeah, squad leaders, they all have to know how to
Yeah.
help.
And what
Yeah.
they're going to find out really quickly, unless it's a very young band director, those kids will show you very quickly how to use the program.
I've got a better idea.
Yeah, they'll go home with it and they'll play with it for 3 hours,
Right.
and they'll come back and say, "Hey, Mr. Lundy, did you realize I can isolate my one field dot and have the music play at the same time?" I had no earthly idea,
Oh, you
so
figured that part out, did you?
yeah,
Good for
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. So they're sharp. They're sharp. So I say if you're going to go the UDB app route, I would just go for it because it is the cleanest. And I know there's probably other apps out there. I've only seen the UDB app.
Right. We're not
And I know
pushing
there's
just
other
one. Right.
competitors. Yeah. But the use of electronics works. I know some band directors are leery about the idea that, hey, kids are texting and they'll be doing this and that. I hate to tell you this, they're doing it anyway.
I'm gonna say secret's
Yeah.
out. You're not
I
stopping
remember
it now.
and I know I hate to waste the podcast time on just a story, but I had a kid that went to UNT on trombone performance, and I remember getting a text from him in marching band. He said, "Hey, we're really messed up back here. Can you help us, Mr. Lenny?" And I thought, you're not supposed to be texting.
Say, don't bring me into this.
Yeah, but here he is texting his band director
That's
during
funny.
rehearsal on his
Yeah.
phone to my phone. So I just thought it was on remind, but I thought that was always hilarious. But they're going to do that anyway. And then the idea that there's not enough equipment to make it work. We can't afford all these iPads and things. I know of schools that just did ask the community through the local newspaper, do you have old iPhones or tablets that you have sitting at your house? Because almost all of us do. I've probably got 3 sitting in my nightstand.
I know
right
I
now.
do. Right.
And so those guys could take them, erase everything on it, use it just as a UDB app device, and they just charge them there in the band hall. So there's ways you don't have to go out and buy 75 iPads.
Well, let me ask you this too. And listen, probably not everywhere, and I don't know if it's a classification thing or not, but there is such thing as a technology budget that doesn't even affect your band budget if you can prove that it's teaching the kids. Is that?
Yeah.
I mean, at least talk to the technology department. Say, look, we're doing this. This is what we need. Is that available?
Yeah, and that's definitely a resource to look into. Most of the kids, they have their own phones, and
Right.
I really prefer them using their device for
Sure.
one simple reason: they will never lose it.
It's true.
They will lose an appendage before they lose their phone. And if they do lose their phone, they'll find it pretty quick. But if it's my school iPad, it might just disappear. Yeah, they have no ownership in it. It doesn't
Sure.
contain all their other stuff. So I know we kind of went a little bit of a tangent, but that could be a whole podcast on itself.
Sure.
Teaching drill later on.
Okay. What else you got for us, man? Couple more?
Yeah, just make sure that another really important meeting, I feel like, get with whoever does the finances in your school.
Okay.
Whether that's the financial officer, whether that's the superintendent's secretary, whether it's an assistant superintendent, whoever is in charge of all that, set up a meeting, and it doesn't have to be long. Just say, I just need 20 minutes. Can I come meet you for 20 minutes? And then let them tell you what time you're going to come in. Go in and just discuss with them what went well this year from your viewpoint, and what did I do that irritated you? Because sometimes you'll do things that irritate your financial people, and they'll just, he's the band director. Just deal with it. But if you go in proactively and say, it's amazing, they'll go, well, you kind of did this way. We'd rather it be, oh, okay. And we do it that way. The other thing is to close out the budget. Just close it out. Make sure you're online for what's going to happen with next year's budget.
You almost got an amen out of that one.
Yeah. I would always ask them, said, if I need to come speak with the school board or a committee, I'd be more than available.
Cool.
And let that way, if it's something about, why are we buying 8 Con 20Ks? And I would say, well, we only do that once every 40 years. So that's a purchase that'll be for the lifetime of, or other things are yearly, So just get with them as a matter of courtesy.
Same thing is readjust your thought process, though. A lot of us think, well, that's not in my purview. That's not. Why would they expect to hear from me? Well, create that relationship. They'll actually be glad to hear from you, especially if you approach it from, what can I do to help
To
you
make your
guys.
job easier. That's how I would say it. What do I need to do to make your job easier?
People ask me all
Yeah.
the time, how come you get the cool toys? Well, I'm really nice to the people that control the money.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
So,
Yeah, they have more control over your livelihood as a band director than the superintendent does in
sure.
most cases.
Okay. Got one more?
Let's see what we got here. If you're lucky enough to be able to use marching techs, and I know not every school has that, but now we're in a situation, sometimes even 2A schools. And a 1A school will hire like a kid from San Angelo to come out, and come out on Monday night rehearsals. The best ones go quick. So
Right.
get with the local college directors or your own networking of kids you've had go to college, and and make sure you get those kids hired on. And sometimes they're retired guys that just want to come out on a Monday night and work with the band and do percussion. So it doesn't have to be young people. But make sure you get that taken care of, because if you have the luxury of having a little bit of money somewhere to pay a little bit for clinicians to come out of marching techs,
Right.
man, it's wonderful if you have that ability. If you
Again,
don't, you just have to do it the old fashioned way. It's all right.
would you recommend calling um, department chairs at universities, or, I mean, how would you find those kids? Do you just network with the directors at the college and university level, or?
Yeah, I always just did it where two ways. One was to just contact the whoever does the marching band
Okay.
at the university, because that's generally different than the department chair
I
or the
understand.
director of
Right.
bands in a lot of ways. So get with them. The other way was just sheer networking with my own kids. Like I had a young man who came through my program, great percussionist. Then he went and marched with the Crossmen, went to McMurray, percussion tech for me for 4 years, went to Ohio State University to get his master's. He's
Okay.
finishing up, and now we're looking at placing him in a job up in Wichita Falls.
Wow.
So,
Cool. Cool.
so the network, this kid was a beginner in the program at one time. Now he's got a master's degree in percussion performance from Ohio State University and an ed degree.
And again,
So
that's a
I would
win-win,
use
Mike.
those guys. Yeah, because I was able to utilize his talents, and in some ways, I was able to help him when he needed help.
Well,
You
and
know.
he's creating network. It's kind of
Yes.
like we talked about with the listening sessions. If you're at a university right now as a music ed person, go hang out with people that are doing this right now.
Yes.
Learn people's names, learn people's faces, develop relationship. It's amazing how some of that comes back around down the road. So,
Yeah, and with our local universities here in Abilene proper, I've had the luxury of going in without any cost, free of charge kind of moment. Been invited to come in and talk about UIL rules to their secondary methods course, or how do we teach drill, or how do we choose music. And
right.
so if you build a relationship with the local college directors, um, it just reaps so many benefits for you and them.
Awesome. All right, brother. Well, we're trying to keep these in bite-sized chunks here. That's kind of about
Okay.
all we got time to do today. You think we need to do one more, or we kind of cover enough of that and they can get the list and go through the rest of it?
Kind of a different thing. Well, there's some more things what to send the kids home with for the summer. And I think a big one is things to do with your band boosters to get them prepped
Well, let's
for the
talk about
next
that
year.
next week then. Is it good?
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that.
Cool.
That'll be cool.
All right, friends. Well, this is Ask Mike. If you got questions, we're going to post that email address again, askmike@intunemusic.com. And if you want this list that we've been referencing, it's available on our website. Rick will put the link up for that as well. In the meantime, we hope you have a fantastic week teaching the future of music in the state of Texas and beyond, wherever you're listening. So we're excited to be part of that journey with you. Y'all have a great day. Thanks, Mike.
You bet. Thank you.